Here's the million-dollar question. Can canned beans be exciting? Absolutely, when you bring the science and layer the flavor. I'm Nik Sharma, a molecular biologist, turned cookbook author, and full-time flavor enthusiast. And today, we're riffing on Romesco, a Catalan classic, and giving these humble pantry beans a seriously delicious makeover. Let's get into it. If you'd like to follow along with this recipe, you can see step-by-step instructions on the ATK app. Romesco typically starts with either tomatoes or roasted red peppers, and today I'm using both. I've got a medium bell pepper, and I'm going to give this a quick trim before it hits the sheet pan alongside some cherry tomatoes. I'm surgically dissecting this bell pepper, and the thing that people don't know about me is that I trained in doing microsurgery, so I actually enjoy this part. I'm cutting these bell peppers in half, coring out all the seeds and the junk that I do not need to make this romesco. Now I'm going to move these to my sheet pan, and I'm going to prep these cherry tomatoes using the Zwilling Pro serrated prep knife. The ATK reviews team actually tested 8 serrated prep knives, and this one was the winner. It makes it perfect for prepping small vegetables like these cherry tomatoes. The serrated edge is especially great for getting through their skins cleanly without crushing. You can cut them lengthwise like I'm doing, or you can also cut them crosswise. The main thing here is, again, just cutting them so you expose the insides, so you get better browning and the Maillard reaction taking place inside the broiler. Now I'm going to move these sliced cherry tomatoes directly to the pan with the bell peppers. I need to toss these with a little bit of olive oil. You could do this in a bowl like the recipe states, or if you're like me and you hate washing dishes, just do it on the sheet pan with a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to flip these bell peppers over skin side up because that helps the skin get charred and builds more flavor. Broiling does a few key things. The tomatoes will release their juices, which pool and concentrate and start to brown. And that browning, it's not just heat, it's the Maillard reaction, a complex cascade of chemical changes where sugars and proteins team up to create flavor. And that's the kind of depth we're building here. I've already turned the oven on and I've got it set to the broiler. So I'm going to head over and pop these in. Now it's been about 10 minutes and everything is beautifully charred. Now I've been talking a lot about the Maillard reaction in this recipe. The broiling process, as you can see, has created these little brown spots all over the tray where the tomatoes and bell peppers are. The naturally present amino acids and sugars in these vegetables are coming together in the presence of heat and undergoing a complex cascade of reactions that produces a set of flavors that give smokiness and bittersweet flavors too. So I'm scraping everything, the skins, juices, caramelized bits, straight into the food processor. Whole almonds are traditional in Romesco, but since I'm pairing this sauce with creamy beans, I'm after just a touch of texture, nothing too chunky. So I'm using sliced almonds instead of whole. They're easier to break down and they give me more control over the final texture. And I go with blanched almonds only because the skins add bitterness and muddy the color. Instead of the traditional dried chili, I'm reaching for one of my favorites, Calabrian chilies. You'll find them jarred in olive oil or dried, but I'm using the jarred kind, which is fiery, fermented, and full of personality. They're made by drying, curing, and fermenting hot peppers, which concentrates their flavors and builds serious depth. A little bit goes a long way. Now I'm going to add some tomato paste. First, I'm going to measure it out. Also, if you buy tomato paste, I love buying it in tube form because you can just squeeze it out, versus the can where you have to figure a way to store it somehow, which is always a pain. Next thing that goes in here is the Parmesan, and both the tomato paste and the Parmesan are going to build on that umami backbone for my Romesco. I'm going to add a splash of vinegar, which will cut through the richness of the Romesco and brighten all these flavors up. Next up, a cup of fresh basil, which will add a nice vibrancy to this Romesco. I'm going to add some salt and olive oil. To finish this up, I'm going to add some minced garlic. Now you could add the garlic directly to the food processor and the food processor will do its job mincing it up, but I prefer chopping garlic before to build on that garlicky flavor. It breaks down the cells and releases an enzyme called allinase, which creates a volatile aromatic compound called allicin, and that helps create that garlic flavor. Now the texture I'm looking for when I make this Romesco, it has to be chunky. I don't want something that's smooth and too silky. This texture looks good. I'm going to pull it out of the food processor. And if you want to see up close, you can see that it's nice and chunky. The almonds are there, the chilies are there, and that's going to hold on to my beans really nicely. Now this sauce is ready. You can also make it a day ahead of time, stash it in the fridge, and just pull it out when you're ready to make an extra fast flavor-packed dinner. And one of the things I love to do with it is put it in a roast beef sandwich, which is something you guys should try out, with a little bit of arugula. Once the romesco is ready, putting it to work is easy. So I'm just now going to chop an onion. I'm surprised I'm actually not crying my eyes out, not because this is an emotional scene, but because it's onions. And that's because the blade of this knife is so sharp, so it's cutting through fewer cells, fewer chemicals to make me cry. It's time to saute the onions. I'm adding a pinch of salt to these onions, which will help soften them as they cook. This is a small step, but it adds sweetness and depth. As they cook, the aromatic compounds move into the olive oil and it builds a richer, more savory foundation. Because the romesco is already so bold, I don't want to add deep caramelization here, just soft, translucent onions that melt into the mix. I'm using the 5.5 quart round cocotte from stove. Now I've said it before, but I absolutely love cooking with cast iron. People are always worried about cleaning and maintaining cast iron, but enamel cast iron pots like this model from stove are actually so easy to use every day. All you need is soap and warm water to clean, and they don't require any seasoning. Now I'm using cannellini beans here because they're creamy, mild, and hold their shape just enough while still breaking down a little bit, which is exactly what I want here. I love cannellini beans. I like the perfect balance that they bring: delicate skins, creamy interiors, and just enough structure to hold up without falling apart. Now that my onions are soft and tender, I'm adding the beans and the romesco that I prepared earlier. This might be looking a little bit thick right now, but don't worry. For the next step, I'm going to add in some vegetable broth. You can also use chicken broth if that's what you have at home. The broth brings everything together, it adds depth, but it also turns this into more than just beans and sauce. Now here's a pro tip: if you're making anything that has a lot of color, never wear white or light colored clothing. Come in something like this, black and dark. Because if your clothes get stained, these kind of colors never come off, no matter what people tell you with their kitchen hacks and tricks. Now I'm going to let this simmer for 10 minutes, and while this simmers, something wonderful is going to start happening. Some of the beans that are present in here will break and fall apart, and they'll start to release their starches directly into the broth, which will help thicken this entire sauce. Now this is why I skipped the traditional choice of bread in the romesco, because I knew beans would do their job here. As this is simmering, I can start to smell the fresh basil in here, the roasted bell peppers and tomatoes that I cooked earlier to prepare the romesco. Even the vinegar is coming through, which is hinting that my beans are getting soft and creamy. These flavors are coming together beautifully. I want to take a moment to thank my sponsors. This series is brought to you by Stobe and Zwilling, two names I reach for daily when cooking at home. Stobe's cast iron cookware is built to last, and Zwilling's knives are some of the sharpest and most comfortable in my collection. Check out the links below for more info. Now this has been simmering for about 10 minutes. If you take a look, it's nicely thickened and the beans have turned nice and soft and creamy. I'm going to taste and make sure the seasoning is right. It's perfect. It actually doesn't need any salt. Now it's time to serve. I'm going to ladle out some of this bean romesco. Look at that. It's so thick and beautiful. Now I'm going to garnish this with two things that I love: some fresh basil and Parmesan. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is chop up some fresh basil leaves. The stems are usually bitter. At least I find them bitter, so I remove them. I'm just going to sprinkle on top a little bit of fresh basil. Now I'm going to add some Calabrian chilies. If you end up buying Calabrian chilies that are not crushed and sliced, don't panic. It's not a big deal. Just do what I'm doing. Just give it a rough chop, and then you can just top it off on the beans, and that's it. Now I'm just going to sprinkle some of these chopped Calabrian chilies on top. Again, add a little bit, and then if you prefer it hot, feel free to add more. Now for the fun part: Parmesan. And this is something that I don't limit. Be generous, be extra generous. It adds a bit of saltiness and umami, and it makes this dish extra special. No one needs an excuse or my permission to add more Parmesan. Let's taste this. The smokiness is coming through. And even this bittersweet flavors from the tomatoes and the bell peppers that I've broiled, the crunchiness of the almonds, there's a lot of texture in here. And at the end, you get the beans that have helped thicken the sauce, but also they give that soft, beautiful, creamy bite. If I'm feeling fancy and I have extra time, I'll add a crisp salad and some crusty bread to scoop up every bit of that brothy, flavorful sauce. These beans, they're anything but basic. You can find links to all of the Stove & Zwilling products used in this video in the description below. I'll see you next time.